Hey there, and welcome to my channel. I am your host, Dancing Johari, and well, today I have a different kind of project for you. As you can see, I'm back in my studio, I'm working hard, and I wish I could say it's for a doll, but well, it's not, but it's for a really cool thing. We have so much to do, we really should get started. To the workstation! Okay, so I had an idea for Bubbles. I thought that she could use a bed, kind of like Ursula had, a big clamshell bed, seat, whatever. I had ordered these by accident. They are the gigantic lion's claw shells from IDFabrications. And they are awesomely detailed, and well, I got the wrong size. I got the giant ones. I don't need giant ones. I needed smaller ones for me. But I thought, why not use them for something cool? They're big enough to be a doll bed or a doll throne. Why not? So the first thing I did was I took out a hinge I had bought previously at the hardware store, and I tried to line this up. Now, you really should use a Sharpie for this part because, well, you'll see. But you want to get the holes lined up correctly with the hinge. And you also want to make sure they're going to line up correctly with each other. This is my idea. Just, we need a big clam bed throne, whatever, like Ursula had. As you can see here in the movie, she had a really big one. And I really, really want to make something kind of like this. Maybe not quite as dark. I mean, Bubbles isn't Ursula. She is Ursula's daughter. So here I am with the hardware, trying to make sure everything's going to fit. Trying to figure out, I was thinking originally that the hinge was going to go on the back, maybe. But, well, I decided to put it on the inside. It'll be easier to hide on the inside. And I am going to hide the hinge. That was always part of the plan. But, oops. Oh, no. Yeah, use a Sharpie and use the holes of the hinge to help you determine where you're going to drill. It'll just make things so much easier than the way I did it. I couldn't find a Sharpie this day. I really looked everywhere and I just could not find one for the life of me. So first, because it was kind of tough just getting in the screws, I put in the screws first. And these are nuts. Actually, they're not even really screws. They're nuts and bolts. So on the back, they're blunt. And then I took my bolts and I just screwed those on. Don't worry, I have a plan to hide those too later. So I initially just used my hands to kind of put them on, and then I used pliers and my screwdriver, not just my finger, but the screwdriver too, to tighten everything up so that it was nice and snug. Now my idea would be that this would be a functional bed where it could open and close. Let's attach the other side and we're going to see how that worked. Anyway, so I have gotten such a great response about Bubbles, and I was still working with an injury through this, so I had to take things kind of slow at first. As my injury has gotten better, I've been able to pick up the pace a little bit. I can't promise I'll be posting every month. I'm going to do what I can, because I am starting beauty school this month. So I'm really, really excited about that. After I got the hinge firmly affixed and I discovered that it was not going to hold a pose, I broke out the Apoxy Sculpt. First, let's hide the hinge, and maybe a little epoxy will help it to hold a pose, maybe? At least maybe it'll make the hinge a little stiffer. That was the thought. It was also a little too small for this. I should have gotten a pair of hinges. I also hid the bolts on the back. Or the nuts on the back, just for safety reasons, but also it'll make it look cool if it looks like kind of like a barnacle, or maybe a growth on the of something that's growing on the back of the shells. Okay, that looks good so far. I went ahead, once I got enough epoxy set up around everything that I was happy with it, I went ahead and set it up to dry. I decided not to go for the functional and just have a solid pose where it would just hold itself up. That's what I really wanted. And when I also decided to put in a little more epoxy after the initial pass, just to help it hold said pose. And I decided to make it look like coral, and I'll show you how I did that later. Sorry about the angle on this. I was kind of limited in my living room. I also made sure that there was plenty on the back, again, to help hold the pose. I also smoothed it out as best I can. Now, I know I should be wearing gloves, but unfortunately, the shot where you saw me wearing gloves, that was my last pair. I really need to get to the store and get some more. Okay, I used aluminum foil to kind of help it to set up, and of course my cup. Okay, now it's looking great. It's sitting up nicely, but it tips over on its own. So I decided to use the aluminum foil, or if you just want to call it just foil, and some air dry clay to make a base. I figured maybe we can make it look like more coral. That would like explain why there's coral growing in between these two shells. Maybe. Anyway, so I put it all on, smoothed it out, and got a look I was fairly happy with. Pressed the shell into it with the hopes that maybe it'll just sit on this nicely when it's all dry. Also, it didn't. I used a nail dotting tool that I don't use for nails anymore, and I went around and I poked holes, just like I did in the middle of the clamshell where all that epoxy was. Make it look like coral. It came out really cool too. One side is bigger than the other, so I used both sides, you know, just randomly poking holes everywhere. It was a lot of fun. And it looks really cool. It looks like it's something that you would see on the ocean floor when I'm done. How's that look? I think that's pretty cool. And it was simple too. I'm a little shy about my sculpting skills. I hope you understand that. Afterwards, after that was all dry, I took a lot of silicone and I made a mold box. Mixed up my silicone and poured it over that base and made a mold. And then I took resin crete, which is water-based, which doesn't give us a lot of fumes as it cures, and it has a 30-minute demold time. And I made this. I added a little bit of color to it with some chameleon powder. And it came out with this marbly texture. Okay, it didn't pick up every little detail the greatest, but oh my god, it looks like it could be the ocean floor. And it's got a nice solid base. And it only took 30 minutes to dry. And look at that! Now it's time to paint. And sorry I lost a lot of footage. 3 of my clips just didn't make it this time. Oops. So I took this shell, and at first I primed the inside black and the outside ivory, off-white. You can call it ivory, you can call it eggshell. It's off-white primer. Then, taking my eyeshadow palette, just like I normally would in Mr. Super Clear, I gave it a little bit of tooth by spraying both sides, and then my eyeshadow palette went to work. The outside I try to mimic the bands on the shell that I was using for reference, and on the inside I wanted it to look more like mother of pearl, unlike the real thing. The real thing would have been more of a creamy white and pinks and other things. I decided to make it more contrasty because all of that would have hidden and camouflaged bubbles a little too much, in my opinion. So I took a lot of metallics, eyeshadows, and just had fun just creating rainbow inside as best as I could. And this is the results. Not bad, right? After this, I took it outside and sprayed it with glossy Mr. Super Clear. Then, a few days later, I took it downstairs, used some banner paper and this bottom shell to create a pattern. You see, oysters usually have like a squishy inside, and I thought, how cool would it be if she was using the squishy inside as her bed? So, after all, I don't think a feather mattress or anything would survive very well down under the water. Oh no, Daisy. Sorry. Anyway, so after I made my pattern, I checked it. I marked it for future reference in case I ever do something like this again. Took some sparkly, velvety fabric. It's actually white velvet with lots of sparkle. Turned it wrong side out, pinned it, the pattern to it, and cut out my pieces. I took off the pattern and started pinning them together. The idea is this is going to be a pillow, so we're going to need to sew the edges, turn it right side out, and stuff it. First step, pinning. And this took a little bit of doing because apparently I didn't line up the fabric exactly on top of each other just right. When I cut it out, one side was a little bit bigger than the other. So I just kind of worked with it as best I could. This velvet is not stretchy. I prefer my stretchy velvet, but this wasn't stretchy. After that, I took out my sewing machine and started sewing. Lots of fun. Actually, it didn't take very long either. I just left an opening for stuffing, of course. Once the outside was all sewn, out come the pins. And of course I snipped the threads. I turned it right side out. So sparkly! Isn't it fun? Okay, yeah, it's still white, but I didn't have other colors in this particular fabric. And I stuffed it with fiberfill. This is polyester fiberfill that I got you can get from Michael's, I would say Joanne's. Then I used a ladder stitch, as shown as this diagram here, to close up the gap. I didn't get great footage of sewing it, so let's speed this up a little. Basically, we're just going back and forth, doing little stitches to make a clean looking seam. There we go. All stuffed, all sealed. Now we have all three of our components. Let's put them together. I thought I could do this with hot glue. Well, let's see if it'll work. So I lay down some hot glue on the base, press the shell in as best as I can, trying not to let it shift, trying to get it to secure, and is it steady? I think so. But let's try the light tug test. Will it stay? Nope, it came right off. So I looked through my stuff and I ended up securing the pillow down with some of these silicone blobs that are actually earplugs. I had gotten these for one of my kids and they said they didn't work very well for them, so for sleeping. So they gave them back and I've had them ever since. They're great for BJD eyes. So I thought maybe it would be good for this, and it worked! That shell's not going anywhere. There's going to be no tipping, no spilling, nothing. It's not going to come apart unless I tug it apart really hard. This stuff is great, and it doesn't dry out very quickly either. So after that, I took some shells that I found at the beach, including the reference I used for the inside, covered them in UV top coat, cured that, secured those in place with Uhu, along with some little pearl pieces and some gems. It took a little doing, but bam! Here it is. Let's see it with bubbles now. There we go. She looks so good. I've hoped you've enjoyed watching this bed being made for Bubbles. I think you agree it'll be a better way to display her than a traditional doll stand, which doesn't work for her. What do you think? Do you like it? Oh, great! I'm so happy. I hope you guys liked it too. As you can see, there's room for more than one on this bed. I hope you all have a great day. What will you create today? Bye.